Here.
James,
Here.
Brett,
Here.
Tate,
Here.
Eric,
Here.
Dan,
Here.
George,
Here.
Barry,
Here.
Sherelle.
We have a quorum. We'll proceed. You've got the minutes from the January meeting. What are the wishes?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Yep. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next one, D1, we had a public hearing. Ramsey Hill Explorations for a CUP to construct and operate a frac sand facility out in the agricultural district down in the Nesson, or Hoffland, I'm sorry. Cameron, you want to give us an update?
Yeah, so Mike Chena with Ramsey Hill Exploration is requesting a conditional use permit. There's a lot of different legal descriptions, so I'll just give a brief overview. It's portions of Section 8, Section 17, and Section 16 in Hoffland Township. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to construct and operate a frac sand facility within the agricultural zoning district. The project was originally heard at the December 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. After that meeting, the applicant withdrew their application prior to it going to the Board of County Commission. By withdrawing the original application, allowed Ramsey Hill Exploration to make adjustments and come back in front of the board. The subject property is approximately 1,109 acres total. However, the applicant is anticipating approximately 593 acres to be utilized. As per the applicant, the mining for this project will be done in 4 phases with smaller subphases within each phase. The east phase is located within Section 17, the center and west phases within Section 18, while the north phase being in Sections 8 and 17. The processing facility is located within the north phase of the project directly off 110th Avenue Northwest. The applicant anticipates the mining area to be excavated to depths between 20 to 50 feet. It is their intention to utilize unused clay to refill the mining pits and will be continuously reclaiming the areas as they progress further. The applicant states that the elevation post-mining should be approximately 1,865 feet, with the starting elevation prior to mining is about 1,900 feet. As noted in their project narrative, the processing facility will have a drying operation that will consist of a rotary kiln dryer, cyclone, dust collection bag house, storage building, and loadout scales. The purpose of this facility is to help aid in oil-filled production by locally sourcing frac sand needs for operations. Access to the subject property is off 110th Avenue Northwest. It is the intent of the applicant to avoid utilizing 52nd Street Northwest for access. Hoffland Township is governed by Williams County, so no township comment was solicited. If this project were to be approved, there are 5 items, Planning and Zoning Division comments, that we recommend, which would be 1, adhere to the Williams County zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. 2, obtain all necessary building permits for structures within the facility through the Williams County Building Division. 3, obtain approval from the Williams County Water Resource District Board. 4, be in compliance with all state and local codes. And 5, construction of the facility must begin within 18 months.
Thanks, Cameron. Any questions for Cameron at this time? Okay, if not, I'll open up the hearing then. You're good? Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there any public input? Anyone wish to speak on this matter?
I should add, I also believe the applicant is here as well.
Yeah, I see them. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Yep, no, any one of you guys can. Yep, you can just come up to the podium, state your name.
Mike Chena, Ramsey Hill. One thing that I want to present, make everybody aware of, in the prior meeting there was obviously some concern with the proximity of the mining to a lot of the neighboring landowners along the lake. And I know it was mentioned towards the end of the meeting, a suggestion of possibly a bigger buffer, which I think we had 400 feet originally. A suggestion was made of like 750. We've changed that, and it should be in the maps that I've provided, to a 1/4 mile to the north of the property lines of all those houses along the lake there, to distances our operation farther away from those landowners that had concerns. We are in some conversations with another landowner north of 110th on the east side, or the west side, that if that proved to be a mineable reserve, between that and the parcels on the east side where the facility would go, we would focus all our mining there and ultimately stay north of 52 and not affect any of that for many years. That those north parcels would probably enable us to stay up there, you know, for quite some time, and possibly eliminate the need to go south of 52 on the Sheldon property. And if so, we did, you know, end up going into the south, we'd probably focus on the parcel in section 17, kind of furthest away from the houses, adjacent to the big hill that the golf course is on the other side. Other than that, I mean, those are the biggest changes we're proposing. And then, you know, in regards to operations, nothing's changed in regards to any of the trucks or excavation methods. Still would slurry the sand if we're on the south side, and probably it would be our intent even on the north side to slurry the sand. So trucks would be very minimal and probably all restricted to hauling around near the processing facility. But that's all I have. If you guys have any questions?
What we'll do, Mike, is we'll go through the hearing, and then if somebody has questions, we'll ask you to come back up.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Mike. Yep.
Chris Kuzlik with Ramsey Hill. I'm the owner of Ramsey Hill. I apologize for not being here last time. It happened to fall on the same night as our company Christmas, so it was a tough one. We should have just canceled it, but it kind of got goofed up and we didn't realize it. But anyways, since that meeting, we have had 2 different meetings with the landowners. We've invited them to meet with us. We have met with most of them. I think there was maybe, Bill, was there 1 or 2 that was on the phone? There was 2 of them on the phone. I think we felt like the meeting went very well. We asked, and I think there's a lot less here tonight, and I'm guessing a lot less letters, I'm hoping. But I felt like we answered a lot of questions, and I felt like the people were very happy that we met with them, and we gave them 2 different meetings. We come to town and met with them twice. There was a lot of questions on dust, and one thing on the dust that I'm going to tell you guys the same thing as we told them. The dry side of it is all regulated by the federal government as far as our air permit, as far as any dust there goes, and the dust in the mine. This mine isn't, it's not a big coal mine. We're talking about 2 off-road trucks and an excavator and a small dozer mining. We're going to be doing about 40 acres at a time. Then we reclaim it, and then do another 40, reclaim it, do another 40, reclaim it. So it's not like we got this big, 500-acre mine opened up by any means. The dust part of it, as far as running the off-roads around, like I told them, we got a full-time water truck going all day. If we don't have, them trucks don't even want to drive on that sand. It's to our benefit to keep the ground moist for our trucks to haul on it. We have to abide with our air permits from the federal government. We have to keep our dust down. There's definitely more dust. There's more dust created in the farming as far as silica than there is in anything. And I guess obviously we can't do a whole lot about that. We got to farm. We got to have food. But I guess what else did I want to say to you guys? Yeah, Mike did. We're slurrying. So if we ever did get on the south side of the road, what it is just a screen. It's a wet screen with a pump that pumps the sand from there to our mine, or our plant, which our plant is, what are we at, over half a mile north of 52? A half a mile north of 52 with the plant itself. 3/4 of a mile. So anything we do on that south side, we're gonna pump it anyways, if we even do, but if we end up getting the way it looks, we're gonna have probably 10 to 12 years on the north side at least. You know, and that's figuring 1 million ton a year. So, I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I'd be shocked if we're ever on the south side, but if we are, it's gonna be towards the road. Obviously, the closer to our plant, the better for us. You know, we're definitely not gonna go over to the neighbors. We have talked to the neighbors about a possible berm in front of their place, and I think the consensus we got was if we come there, they want it, with trees on it, or just trees. I mean, that's up to them what they want. We're willing to give it. I don't know if they want it. If we're gonna stay on the north side of the road, I don't know if they even want the mess. You know what I mean? I don't think the way it sounded to me, they don't want it if we're not gonna be on the north side. But if we're gonna be on the north side, then I do believe they want it, and we're willing to do that for them, you know. And I will be putting, you know, I told the landowners, this county doesn't ask for a bond. I have no problem giving a bond to the landowner. I mean, I have no problem giving a bond to you guys, but you guys don't ask for it, which is actually a little bit odd. Most counties we deal in ask for a bond so that we don't just leave it and walk away. I have no problem doing that. We're planning on finishing it. We have 3 other mines right now that we have 3 that we own and 1 that we run for another oil company in Utah, and we have bonds at all of them. You know, I don't have no problem giving the landowner a bond because you guys don't ask for one. I'm planning on giving one to the landowner. Other than that, it does look pretty good for the north side as far as getting another big chunk there. Other than that, I think I'll wait for questions from you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yep, thank you. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? Last time, anybody else wish to speak to this matter? Yeah, is there anybody on the phone that wishes to speak?
There's 3, but I don't hear anything yet. They're muted, but they can unmute themselves if they want.
I'm Kenneth Schmidt, and I'm one of the landowners involved in this. I don't know if they pointed out the processing facility would be up in section 8, the blue line, that we're going to have it in the corner of the pivot. It's half a mile north, or actually it's 3/4 of a mile north of County 17A there, or 52nd Street. So I don't know if you're wondering where the processing is going to be, that's where it would be. There's 7 acres in each corner of the pivot, and so they're going to use Bill Sheldon's quarter and my quarter to put the processing there. So.
Be a mile and a quarter to Scenic Highway.
Yeah, it'd be a mile and a quarter north of the,
Mile and a half.
yeah, a mile and a half south of the 1804. You know, along, there's that green. Yeah, right.
That's the only county road trucks
Yeah.
would be that mile.
And just to clarify where the processing plant would be.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Okay, anybody online wish to speak? You come on up, Jim, you're good. Jim or Tom?
My name is Tom Powers. I'm the main owner of the Links in North Dakota. And initially I was kind of shocked and said, boy, this is a bad idea. But after visiting with the company and with Bill Sheldon, I think it's hard to turn down an opportunity like this. We're gonna have a lot of activity out there in any event. The wells are getting drilled. You guys at the county level have no control over the oil and gas. There's all kinds of rigs already running out there. And they're gonna have sand to frack those wells. To me, it makes sense to produce it locally instead of having to haul it in from Wisconsin or even other parts of North Dakota. I think it would be a good idea for the county to get a bond. Mercer County requires it. And I've talked to Bill Sheldon and told him, he's been a steward of his land and he doesn't want anything bad to happen to it. I recommend you get a good attorney, make sure everything is zipped up, you get a bond, make them do their work. And, people worry about the sand silica. But they're mining the same sand that lines the shores of Lake Skakawea. At least my understanding is it doesn't become dangerous till it's cleaned and crushed in fine particles. But when you're digging that sand, I know from personal experience, we replaced the irrigation system out there this year. When we dig down, we're almost all sand, and it's wet once you get down a few feet. It doesn't blow anywhere. And if they have water trucks keeping it wet, I don't think it's going to be a big problem. And as far as noise, I was wondering, is it a problem? But with the amount of equipment they have, I don't think it's going to be. We dug a 25-acre pond out there, Bud Peterson did for us, and he had bigger equipment than they're going to use, and it didn't bother us. With the hill and everything, the sound was pretty muted. So it might be a good opportunity for the community to have some good paying jobs, some other revenue. Thank you.
Ken, yes.
One thing I did forget to say, the plant does run 24/7. The mining operation goes 5 days a week, just during the day. So it'd probably be a 12-hour day, 5 days a week on the mining operation itself. But the plant itself will run 24/7, hopefully. I mean, if we're busy, that's the plan, so. What is it, 40 employees, Mike? 40, 50 employees? Total with the 24/7. It takes a lot to keep that plant going, and then between that and the mining and everything, so. Is what? Yeah, we do. We store the sand, the dry sand inside a building, and then take it out from tunnels underneath. So it's enclosed. It's not like the dried sand is sitting out blown around. It's in a building. So that part of it, everything we do, it'll either be wet sand or sand we're digging out of the ground. And sand we're digging out of the ground is normally coming out at 3% plus moisture. So you don't normally have the issue there. It's more of the roads running on them. And then after it's dried and we have a permit, we'll have to have an air permit, obviously for the dryer and all the dust permitting that way through the federal government, or through the state, which is through the federal government, so.
Does that run through MSHA then?
No, MSHA is just the safety side of it. So it's the EPA, so.
So when you were talking about the cyclone killing, like how big?
It's basically an 11-foot drum, 50-foot long, as far as the dryer goes. Basically an asphalt dryer.
So I was gonna say it'd be the same drum as like on a hot mix plant
Yep,
then?
same thing.
Okay.
Yep. Same
So
dryer.
my next question was gonna be just because, the name cyclone dryer, it's like,
Yeah,
I was just
no,
curious.
it's basically the same setup.
So the noise level is really,
Minimal.
I've been on plenty hot mix plants. and-
Yeah, no, that part of, the equipment driving around will make more noise than the dryer, without a doubt, so. And everything runs through the bag house to filter the dust, so that part of it's all controlled. So, okay?
Okay, last time. Anybody else wish to speak to this matter? Come on up, Bill.
Do I need to press this, or is it on? Oh, okay. Yeah, Bill Sheldon, I'm one of the landowners involved. And at first, I was quite against mining where we have pivots. And the first thing I said, we would not allow any mining unless there was a plan that we could run our pivots when it's done. So that was what first thing they addressed. And there will be a plan to reclaim the land so the pivots will be able to be used. And part of the land I own going up the golf course has got quite hilly and rough, and we have problems at times keeping erosion there. And that land, some of the excess clay in that, because some of the hills are more clay, can be brought down, and that field could be way better than it is now, because it's, parts of that is really hard to even irrigate, although we're managing it, but it's difficult. So to level that to somewhat, and the land would actually slope away from the golf course at a slope that we could keep mowed, and part of it I actually water, so that would keep that nice and clean and everything along the golf course. And the land all slopes away from the golf course, so the people golfing won't even be able to see the mining operation, actually. So that's kind of where we're at, that, you know, the land will be usable when it's done. And I, too, was worried about, you know, the hauling and the dust, and yet realized, you know, we already have a lot of oil trucks running there, and the mining trucks really won't be on the roads where we use it to get to the golf course or to our property along, because I live there too, so I don't want anything that anyone else doesn't want either. So, and that's about all I have, unless there's any other questions.
All right, we're good for now. Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else wish to speak?
Hey guys, my name is Brian Johnson, and I'm not a landowner out there. I have a residence, so there's about 11 to 15 residences all the way along the lake there. And so really, I mean, I think Curtis and Bill, they've done a good job of explaining and taking care of us homeowners out there. I'm a Williston guy, just so you know. And so I'm really, when I look at your map up there, I'm coming from Williston. I'm going to get that on that. When I go to my home, I take that red road. Do you see that? And so basically I'm taking that turn, and of course none of the big trucks will be able to use that road. That's 52nd, isn't it? Okay. So we're on 52nd there, and so I'm not so concerned about that. Bill's been running potatoes down there for years. He's got semis, so that isn't a big deal. But what my concern would be as a young grandfather of 2 now, I've got a couple of grandchildren that live in Bismarck, and they'll be coming from Bismarck, and so they're coming on 1804, and then they're going to turn south on, help me out, what are they going to be on? 110. So when they turn on 110, which is where the plant is going to be, my concern is really 1804, that turn right there. How many trucks are we talking about, guys?
It depends. It's going to be,
150 semis a day making that turn. So safety would be my concern, right? And, you know, there's going to be another frac mine to the east, so that would be another X amount of trucks coming. So my concern would just be, so when they're turning south on 110th, is there going to be some good turning lanes? You know, is there something that the state could do? Something like that when those trucks are coming off that highway, because it's going to be a very busy turn right there. Okay? That's really what I have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brian, you're down here, aren't you?
Right.
I don't know exactly which one, but I want to say it's this one. Which one are you? Anyway, you're down
I'm
here.
I'm the last one to
You're
the.
down here. It is.
Right, yeah, no, there you go. That's mine. You got it.
Okay. Anybody else to speak? Close the hearing. Okay, now you guys have questions. Go ahead, whoever wants to start.
When you were saying that the mining was actually 5 days a week, daylight, or, you know, normal business hours or whatever. And you mentioned two off-road trucks and a excavator and just a small dozer, and, yep,
That's pretty much what we use it.
okay.
We got one in Utah that we'll use 3 to 4 trucks at. You know, we're hauling further away, but this we plan on pumping it. So the furthest we're gonna be hauling is a 2-truck deal.
So when you're coming from the mine to your facility, I'm assuming them off-road trucks, or, I mean, are you staying off the road and then, yeah, okay,
It's all off-road.
yep, okay, well, that was, I didn't know, because some of them, you know, they could be, 40-yard trucks and on that road would be kind of tough on it, but, yeah. Okay, yep.
I guess my question is on some of the stuff we got back recently on the PDF files about water quality, like your recycled water with the different chemicals and stuff in it. How are you gonna, you're reusing it, but do you come to a point where you've got to discharge some, right?
He's the specialist on that.
So my name is Troy Zickert, I work for a company called HiChem.
Use the mic.
I handle their other mines as well as 41 other facilities around the U.S. for water clarification for aggregate and sand. So the chemicals that we use in this industry are NSF certified for potable water clarification. Globally, their most common use is to clarify water that's used for drinking water for municipalities that take their drinking water from surface bodies. Yeah, similar. So the what happens in this process is the chemistry only combines with the clays. Nothing else really has an affinity for the coagulates or the flocculants. They get enough surface surface tension is broken. They get enough specific gravity to settle in the clarifiers, and then they're pumped out. So once they're pumped out for storage, the chemistry ages out quickly, and there's lots of data out there for that life cycle in aerobic and anaerobic conditions. So now about 96 hours is tops. I know there was a letter of dissent that talked about this material getting into the groundwater and so on and so forth. So flocculants have been in use for water clarification and sludge thickening since 1952. So like municipalities like Williston have a treatment plant. It'll thicken human waste. That's then been land applied. That's been land applied for decades now. We're not having these issues, right? So this is the most heavily studied chemical package in the world because of its use. And if you guys want to see where some of these chemicals are normally used, you can look at the back of your shampoo bottles, hand soap containers, toothpaste tubes, cosmetics. They're all there, same stuff. We have 5 divisions. We have a municipal division, a mining division, a resale division. We handle 2,200 different resellers, but we also have a cosmetics division, which is very large. So people are putting this on their bodies as well. I don't want people to be afraid. This was a big thing when frac sand first took off, but it was already in use in paper, in food processing, and I just didn't quite understand that. But I've been doing this since 1994, and there was a frac sand mine kitty corner from my farm. I use the exact same chemicals. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
You were saying that the mine is just gonna run 8 hours a day, but your trucking operation,
Can you just come to the mic when you're talking? Yeah, no, that's okay. It's only just because it's all being recorded.
No, I got it. Yeah, the mining would be just 5 days a week, up to 12 hours a day.
okay,
The plant itself would be 24/7.
that's what I say. You'll be trucking 24/7.
Yeah,
How does
they'll
that
be
plan?
trucking 24/7. Yep.
If you're running 100 trucks a day, are you doing some type of access onto 110th, or are you just making a right-hand turn and tying right into traffic with 100 trucks?
just making the right hands. I mean, that, we don't do the trucking. You know, the oil industry will do their own trucking. I don't even know who does the trucking. You know, it's locals, it's whoever. We just, wash it, dry it, and then they come and pick it up. So, I mean, I can't say for sure they're gonna go straight out. I mean, there's a lot of oil wells right there, but I know they can't go down to 52nd. So,
Just seems like a lot of trucks, every truck coming in, truck coming out, if you got 100 loads on that little section of road, if people are still driving on it too.
yeah, you know, it is and it isn't. I mean, I think you'd be surprised how many trucks are driving down that road in a day, you know.
But you're just adding another 100 to it.
Oh, there's no doubt, we are. But what we are doing also is taking a lot of we're taking a lot more trucks off the road in other spots than what you're adding to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're gonna, now, instead of going to the train rails and everywhere else, now they come to ours, so that it's gonna be one or the other. You know, they're gonna still use the same amount of sand, you know, in the area.
Is there a turning lane coming off 1804 right there?
I'm not even sure if there is or not.
I don't believe there is, no.
I could answer that. If you're coming from the east, there's a passing lane, but it's not technically a left turn lane, but obviously it helps. So if they're coming from the east, there is a left turn lane by using the passing lane.
So they didn't build a turning
There's
lane?
no right turn lane there. And one thing I might add is, even our potato trucks, and we prefer going west from where we have our farm buildings there, to 1804, and coming back around north and going east, instead of taking the gravel north on 110. So even like Brian's family, they can come around on the pavement all the way, instead of driving where the trucks would be hauling and on the rough gravel there.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, we don't do the trucking, but they definitely will be. I hope they will be. That's the only way we sell sand, but, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you there wouldn't be 150 trucks coming out of there a day. And I think when you really add that up between 24 hours, it's not, I don't think it's as much as what it sounds either, but it is 150 trucks, there's no doubt, so.
And I do believe he's correct, because if they weren't gonna get the sand there, they will either get it just east of town here, or Newtown or Ross. I mean, that's just the way it, they gotta go to where it's at to bring it back.
Yeah, they gotta get the sand from somewhere, so I mean,
And I'm not arguing that, I'm just saying you're concentrating 150 trucks in a
yeah,
mile-and-a-half stretch. That just seems like a pile of traffic in a mile and a half.
Every 10 minutes on 24 hours.
Yeah.
150.
it's 150 loads is one every 10 minutes. So it's not like they're bumper to bumper, but it is one every 10 minutes, so.
If it was spread out evenly, I mean, granted, they bunch up a little bit, 3, 4 at a time.
Yeah, give me one. I don't mean to cut you off. Hey, who's ever on the phone, can you put your phone on mute, please? Because you're really staticky, and it's we're having a tough time hearing the guys that are actually here. Thank you.
Anything else?
I was just saying that, if it was spread out evenly over a 24-hour span, 150 loads would be one every just under 10 minutes, which obviously doesn't seem like much when you're actually sitting there. It's one truck every 10 minutes. They will bunch up a little bit. You might get 3, 4 coming in at the same time, and then it'll be a bigger spread between the next time some trucks come in. So it sounds like a lot, but if you take it over 24 hours, it's not like a constant flow, like, truck after truck after truck.
When we dig potatoes, we've often done 25 loads in 8 to 10 hours. So they're not doing it much faster than we are, and there's never any issue with them getting on the highway.
As long as you're up here, if you have independent truckers running on that road, even every 10 minutes, which is still quite a few trucks, and when people start complaining about what they're doing or how they're driving or whatever problems that other people down there are having, who's going to be responsible for that?
Well, I mean, for the most part, obviously, we can't control we can't control the trucking, obviously. I mean, I'd be sitting here lying to you if I told you I was gonna be responsible for it, because there's nothing I can do to them, you know. But obviously, the highway patrol can, and, well, you know, if they're doing something that bad, but, you know, I'd be lying to you if I told you we're gonna control the trucks, because I can't. I mean, the oil industry, for the most part, I mean, to give you a good example, we have 2 of our plants that both have hills on them, and we don't allow anybody in there without mufflers on their trucks. I mean, I don't believe it's getting less and less, the new trucks with the Jake brakes, you can't even hear the Jake brakes, but the old trucks, when they take the mufflers off, it gets very, very annoying, and I don't blame people for being pissed. We don't even allow them to come to our plant. And I don't have a problem telling the ones that come here that they don't come either, you know, because that's the biggest complaint we've got is that. So we just eliminated it and said they can't come. So guess what? They put mufflers on them pretty fast. You know, it's getting less and less. They're getting better and better, especially with the EPA stuff nowadays. You know, most of the trucks have to have them to even be legal. But that is our biggest complaint, when you got trucks with loud mufflers. And we deal with that by not letting them come to our plant. That's the only thing we can do. You know, to answer your question, what we could do about it, that's about the only thing we can do with that.
Well, let me put it this way. If we quadrupled our sheriff's department, there still wouldn't be enough deputies out there to keep the trucks driving in a safe and careful way. And if you can't control the trucks that are going in and out of your plant, the sheriff's department's not going to be able to cover it. You know, I'm out northwest of here, and it's the water trucks out there that are running 75 miles an hour on 45-mile-an-hour roads, and just tearing the hell out of them and scaring everybody else at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think you need to change your plan so that if somebody has a complaint, you tell those guys they're not coming back again.
Well, I can do that. I mean, like I said, I can control the noise of their truck. I also got an excavating company in Wisconsin, and I actually just sold it, but we get a lot of complaints, and I'm gonna be honest with you, probably 75% of them ends up to be not even our truck. You know, now this is a little different, we're right on the same road, you know, but it's hard to, you know, I can sit here and promise you the moon, but if I know I can't do nothing much about it, I can stop them from coming to my plant if I can prove they're doing something wrong. Let's put it that way, and I will. And there is drivers that have been turned in, you know, 3-4 times, and they don't come to our plant anymore. But like I said, I can only do so much to them. I mean, they got to be turned in quite a bit before I'm willing to say, okay, you just lost your job because someone called me on the phone. That's all. You know, I got to have some pretty good proof before I just do it, because unfortunately, a lot of people call and say, hey, it was this truck. I know it was, and it ends up to be a whole different truck. So it kind of puts us in a spot along with you guys. I mean, if somebody comes and complains to you guys, I'm just saying half the time it's a whole different truck. We find out it's a whole different trucking company than what the person even said it was. You know, because we can look at our logs and tell who was there and who wasn't there. And if they turn in a truck and we know that truck wasn't even there that day, that does happen a lot. And I'm not saying they're lying, they're probably right, but they just thought it was the other truck because that's the truck they're used to seeing, you know, a lot. So I just don't want to say that I'm going to, you know, the truckers are out there trying to do a job too. You know, they're trying to make a living, and I just don't want to stand here and say that I'm going to tell every trucker that somebody complains about that you can't come to my plant every day. I don't want to promise that, but I will tell you I will do the best we can do. You know, that I can tell you. I mean, I'm not saying we haven't kicked them out. We have. We've kicked quite a few of them out. but I don't want to sit here. A lot of people can just sit here and tell you whatever you want to hear, but I'm not going to tell you that because it's tougher than most people think that way, because that's what we find out a lot is it wasn't even that truck, but it probably was a truck. They just got it mixed up with the wrong truck, you know. So I don't want to be kicking people out that didn't do nothing either, that's all. So if you can appreciate that, you know. I do appreciate what you're saying because I get it. There's nothing worse than the truckers that there's some maniacs out there that don't deserve to be on the road. There's no doubt. And we'll do the best we can do on it. We will.
Thank you.
One of the things we can do too is obviously if we hear something on regards to a specific truck, we'll communicate with the dispatch for the trucking company. We'll have communications with them. You know, we have to schedule with them when they're coming, you know, when the fracs start. So if we hear something, we'll communicate with them, and they can take that up with their, you know, their employees, their truck drivers as well. You know, it's not like we're just going to have a blind eye and, you know, not. It's, you know, well, they're not our trucks. We don't worry about it. So we do communicate with the trucking companies for various, you know, numerous reasons.
And we can tell every minute they leave. You know, we got down it'll be by the minute when we load them. So we can tell who went there. It's just a lot of times we can't tell exactly which truck it was if that truck wasn't even on the road at that time. Then we're like, okay, this one left here, this one left here, and they're saying it was around 10 o'clock. That's all I'm saying. You know, there is, it's more difficult than sometimes than what it meets the eye. You know, that's all.
If you know the time frame, you got to log on who came and went.
Yep.
Do you know who they're going to? Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll know who they're
that would
going.
be
Definitely.
You know, the oil company. If you stop the flow of sand coming in, they get their attention real quick.
They usually, you know, the oil industry, they don't take a lot of grief from the truckers. I mean, they usually end it pretty quick if they catch someone speeding and everything, just like we do. I don't want to say that everybody that complains we're gonna just shut that truck off, because a lot of times we don't know which truck it is. That's all I'm saying. I mean, we've cut a lot of trucks off, and the Jake brake part of it, that's our rule. I mean, we don't allow it. It's, you know.
You guys have questions? I mean, you want to ask? I mean, and I'm asking because everybody's asking questions. If you guys want to add, you certainly can, guys.
Yeah. Do you guys have a plan for, let's say, landowners start complaining about the ruts in the road and all that, and you maybe need to bring some material in on the road, blade the road, and all that? You guys have a maintenance plan for the road?
You know, we can blade the road. The only problem we sometimes get in trouble with is the county doesn't want us doing that. You know what I mean? We have a blade, a big blade that we can run down that road quick with. It's just, to be honest with you, most counties won't allow us to. I don't know how you guys are there.
Back in the crazy times here, 10, 15 years ago, there were road maintenance agreements with developers and the operators in the county, if I recall. So they're floating around somewhere at some level.
Right, and we've found that, and you know, not obviously not these guys, and you know, they're making the best, or trying to make the best effort, but if the oil company or whoever, you know, if they got a blade sitting there, and then they'll have some guy that wants to learn how to run a blade, they go right ahead and go practice out there. So we've actually asked them to kindly not do that anymore, because if you didn't think there was enough gravel on the road before, when you throw it in the ditch, now we have less. So.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
Cameron, with this being a CUP, if this does get to be a problem on this section of road, we have the option to shut it down, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. With any conditional use permit, if we receive complaints, typically they get filtered in through staff. We can have a hearing back in front of, don't quote me on this, I'm not sure if it goes in front of this board and then the county commission, or straight to the county commission, similar to an appeal. But either way, there would be a hearing, and then they would determine whether to revoke the CUP or adjust its conditions. That is possible.
Well, so I'm just saying, instead of beating them up over something we don't know what it's gonna be until they get operating. We've always got that leverage to go back and discuss it or do whatever we have to
Yeah.
at that point. We're not,
And I should add, Michelle did reach out to County Highway. We didn't receive any comments back, but we did reach out.
So when, do you have more, do you have one dedicated customer, or is it just gonna be whoever needs sand?
Whoever needs sand,
Okay.
you know, definitely.
Okay, any other questions?
just one quick one. No, you're pretty sure you're gonna be at least 10 years on the north side of 52?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, right now, that's the way it's looking.
okay.
You know, possibly a little more. I mean, unless it really sells, but I doubt it. I mean, we're figuring 1 million ton a year, which is what we normally figure a plant at.
So would
You know,
would
and
you start on the east end of that section there north of 52 and then work your way west, or are you gonna start just directly south?
We'd start on the north end, north of 52.
Well, that runs, that outline piece runs east and west there, correct? North of
No.
52? Or am I not looking at the right section
The
there?
big square up on top,
That's where your
so
plant is gonna be.
that's his whole piece there.
Yep.
So right in the center of that big square is where the plant is,
Yep.
right against the road. We'll start just south of the plant.
Oh, okay, I was looking at the parcel that ran east to west there, so.
We'll start as close as we can to the plant and work our way away from the plant, you know, which makes sense. It just, you know, the shorter the better. And, you know, the one thing about it is, you know, none of it's guaranteed. We're in the oil industry too, you know. I mean, in 5 years, they might not be using frac sand. We don't know, you know. I mean, we can give our best judgments, but I hope they are, because it's a $40, $50 million plant. So, I mean, it's a lot of money to invest, and so we hope to be there for a while. So,
Dan, you had another question? Are you good?
Question to Cameron. You send out notices prior to the meeting to everybody within a mile or 2 miles, or how does that work?
Yeah, the process is a 1 mile notification to all surrounding property owners.
Were the Corps of Engineers notified?
I don't have the list of exactly the notification list, but if they fell within the 1 mile, they were. But I can't recall any time where we've ever gotten a response from the Corps.
yeah, they would have been within the mile.
So there was no response from the Corps?
Not that I'm aware of. Michelle didn't inform me of that, but I can think of past projects. I think we one time had a response from them, and it was about 6 months after we sent the notifications. We don't always get responses from the Corps, but I don't want to mislead you. I'm not positive if they reached out to us, but Michelle didn't even mention that.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Sheldon, could you point out, there's a gentleman from Ray that has a lot down there, and he had an easement from you to get in and out of his property? Where is that property on the map?
Which property? I'm confused which one you're asking.
Dan Broderson's?
Got the easement
Oh,
going.
Broderson's.
Yep.
Yeah, I can point that out. Okay, they're further west before yep, right in the middle now, right where your pen is down, come down, let's see, come down. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, they're to the left.
Yeah, they're to the
Way
left,
to the
okay.
left.
Yeah, way to the
Right
left.
Off your screen,
Yep, there,
right there, the yellow, yep.
yeah, there it is.
Okay, what about, is it Brady Spencer that has a place down there?
Spencer Littlefield has a place.
Oh, okay.
His is right along the road, but I've talked with him, and he's got no objections at all to the mining. And Brodersons were at both meetings, and at first they were really adamant this could lower the value of their land. That's their retirement home and their retirement investment and all that. And it was all legitimate concerns. But at the end of the meeting, they were more than cordial, and they thought this was really well answered, and all had good comments from them.
Okay, well, I had several conversations with Spencer
Oh, you have?
over at the elevator at Ray.
Okay, yep.
And that's
yep.
why I bring it up.
Yep. But I have talked with him a couple, 3, 4 times, and sat in his home and visited with him, and he said, I've got no objection to the mining, so, the way it's presented.
Thank you.
Actually, just a side note on that, the last time I talked to Spencer, his main concern was the rigs that are down there drilling right now. He would like us to get him to slow down. But he didn't even mention this, so.
Well, and I look at from the last time you guys presented this back in, was it December? You've made substantial progress, and you made, in my opinion, positive steps forward to alleviate some of the pressure from the neighbors that had the concerns, outside of a bond. The fact they're willing to put up the buffer and a mound or whatever have you, or both, I think is very important.
Yeah, like I said, we had, we gave them 2 meetings, that we would meet and, discuss it. And I think, for the most part, I think everybody was quite satisfied. I'm not saying, I'm not sitting here telling you that they love it, because obviously they probably don't love it, but, yeah, no, definitely. It's gonna bring jobs in and.
I have 2 questions. One's for you. How do you determine what percentage of bond you require? How does that work? Who determines that?
Every county's a little bit different. Like, over in Hazen, they just set, I don't know, do you know what the percentage is over there, Mike? Yeah, it's, what they do is basically whatever acreage you got tore up is what you pay on. You know what I mean? So.
You guys have a formula somewhere in there?
Well, Chairman Similic, I can go a little further into the reclamation and the stuff that we had researched after the December meeting, because I know the questions were brought up and concerns about that, and some of the public comment also had concerns about that. If you would like, I can kind of explain what we've
I think
researched.
you need to, because I think that's a big deal.
Sure.
And it is surprising the kind of.
I'm gonna be honest with you, it is a big deal. I mean, there's, I'm a prime example is over by us in Hazen. I mean, there's a couple of mines sitting there that, they got a bond on, but thank God, because if they didn't. And there's a lot of other counties that never got bonds, and they're sitting, the landowner sits there with a mess, and the county and whoever drives by it, you know what I mean, forever, because it does, there should be a bond. I'm not saying there shouldn't. I don't have a problem putting up a bond.
And
I plan
really,
on reclaiming
business
it.
world,
I don't.
there should be a bond. That shouldn't even be negotiable. Again, you tell us how you get there.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't have a problem giving you a bond. I don't. You guys should be getting a bond. I wish you would, because the bad eggs will stay away. If you do that, it will help the better companies. There's not a question in my mind on that one. I didn't, until we actually had one of the meetings with the neighbor brought it up. I didn't even know you guys didn't get a bond. I had no idea. I just assumed you did, so.
Sure, yeah. So I reached out to a couple different avenues. I spoke with the county legal counsel about reclamation processes for this type of activity, and I also spoke with Fred Anderson, who's a geologist at the North Dakota Department of Minerals. In addition to informing me that there are air permit requirements, as we spoke about through NDDEQ, he did direct me over to Century Code. Century Code, and I'll keep it brief here, but 38-16-01.1 is gravel and sand surface mining operations, reclamation, civil action penalty. And I'll read this quickly. Any surface mining operator conducting a gravel or sand surface mining operation on land in this state owned by another person, upon completion or abandonment of the surface mining operation, shall reclaim the affected land. Each surface mining operator shall negotiate with the landowner a written agreement providing for the reclamation of the affected land. Unless the affected land is to be used for other purposes agreed upon between the surface mining operator and the landowner, the reclamation agreement must, at a minimum, provide for restoration by the surface mining operator of the affected land as nearly as possible to the agreed contour and usability, indicate the amount of topsoil and subsoil to be saved, segregated and respread, and indicate the party responsible for compaction of backfill, soil testing, fertilization, revegetation, weed control, rock disposal, and replacement or establishment of conservation practices. The reclamation must be within the time period agreed upon between the parties, but within 1 year after the final cessation of surface mining operations. The landowner may bring a claim for relief in any appropriate district court against the surface mining operator who has failed to reclaim properly affected land pursuant to a reclamation agreement under this section. In an action under this section, a surface mining operator is liable for damage in an amount necessary to reclaim the land. Any person who violates any provision of the section is guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. In addition, when I spoke with Karen, she did give some of her thoughts and opinions on this as well. Part of it was that the Board of County Commissioners already unanimously approved 2 frac sand facilities, only put a special condition on one of them to improve a road. In their approval of those, they didn't express the need to look into special zoning regulations or county standalone bond or reclamation processes, especially since state law already requires the frac sand company to have a private agreement with the landowner. The county ordinances already regulate sand and gravel operations as a CUP in the ag district, but it's important to note that if this was heavy industrial, they wouldn't even require a CUP or come in front of the board because that's an allowed use within that district. But putting that aside, if this board did feel that a financial security or a bond or reclamation plan needed to also be done through the county, our zoning ordinance 3-2-1 .14 or 1/4 says conditions and restrictions may be attached to an approval that are intended to reduce or minimize any potential adverse impacts upon other property in the area or to carry out the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan or this ordinance. And it goes on further. So this board could certainly, if they see fit, add a bond or financial security requirement to this project. Other projects in our zoning ordinance that require bonds are typically have to be done by a North Dakota certified engineer, and it's usually within 125% of reclamation costs. The options that we usually give are either a bond, cash and escrow, or a letter of irrevocable credit.
We do that on the city. I think it's 125% of engineering costs.
Yeah, and we do that for like data mines. We also do it for workforce housing, but we don't have anything specific for that. I think the as it's gone through so far, we've kind of relied on what Century Code requires for the parties to be involved in an agreement. But that's certainly not to say if this board sees fit that one couldn't be added to the conditions.
Okay.
So if the 2 parties were, they come up with an agreement that suits both of them, that's say just for argument, like the wheels fall off the bus and they pack up and leave town, then Bill and Kenny, they have a legal way to go after whoever was doing the mining, right?
Well, I'm going to be careful not to give any legal interpretation.
No, but I mean,
but
I mean, if they have a signed agreement, the 2 parties, so they have a legal means to get some sort of satisfaction, right? Or
yeah, the way I read
that's what
Century
heard,
Code,
right?
I think you would be correct, Commissioner Ramberg. It does say that they are able to take it to district court, and the mining operator could be found guilty of a Class B misdemeanor if they don't do that. And it may not be a bad idea to add to those conditions that we would like to have a copy to see that a reclamation agreement was made, if at a bare minimum.
Can you not have, obviously you wouldn't want to record the agreement. That what you guys do is your guys' business. That's not for public knowledge. But there should be a notice of that agreement recorded somewhere against that property. In case you guys get, you go broke and defunct and you pass on.
Well, that's what the bond is for.
And that's my point.
If we go broke, then they cash the bond. That's what it's for. That's why they do the bond.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's no getting out of it.
I was just thinking, if the interested parties had an
I
agreement
plan on
amongst
giving them a
themselves,
bond.
it would be.
I plan on
it
giving
would
the
be
county a
simpler,
bond, so if the
right?
county don't want one, I'll give one to him. Don't bother me. You guys need to, I know it takes time, but in the future, to be honest with you guys need to get something set up, because one of them you approved is already trouble. So, I'm just telling you.
Yep, go ahead.
We need a bond. If you take a look at all the abandoned oil wells that the state of North Dakota has cleaned up, I don't know what the Century Code said about them, but I know that Tom Powers does. We need a bond on this. If you zoomed out on the map, you would see one of the nicest beaches, definitely the nicest beach in the state of North Dakota, one of the nicest beaches. Little Egypt is just as good as a beach on the coast of California. And the number of people that use that beach in the summertime, and not just weekends, there's 300-400 people down there every weekend. We got to have a bond.
I'm not against it. I just thought, you know, if they had basically the same thing, but they just worked out amongst themselves, it would just be simpler. But I mean, I'm not against requiring a bond. That wasn't my direction. But
You gotta have that money to back it, because if somebody goes out of business, you can sue them all you want. There's no way you can get it, there's no way you can get it reclaimed.
But who carries the bond? I mean, you don't want to have two bonds.
I think the county should carry the bond personally.
Absolutely.
But we did that with, well, I thought we did on some of the temporary housing and man camps we did. Whether they were actually there or not, I can't give you an answer, but I certainly know motions were made to those effects. So, okay, how do you guys want to proceed?
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter to me whether they hold the bond or you guys do. I'm fine with either way, so. Anything else?
Good for the moment. Okay, how do you guys want to roll? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
What are the wishes of the board?
I would make a motion to approve, contingent upon the county having a bond. Not that hard to get a hold of Mercer County, get a copy of their, whatever regulations or ordinance they have, and get that in place. The ones that already got out the barn door, you probably can't do anything about, but there's gonna be more coming. We gotta have a bond, so I would make a motion to approve it, even though I'm really worried about this, and I'm worried about the effect on the recreation area. But if I have to go by that to get a bond, let's get a bond. I'll make a motion to approve it contingent upon,
Staff comments and the bond.
yes, thank you.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss on that? So we have the reclamation bond, which is an agreement between you guys. Whatever you guys work out is your business, but you need to have an agreement with the owner, or the operator, I should say, and have something put together. Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, just to see clarity before the motion is completely made, is it appropriate, just so staff has direction for the bond, to follow the 125% like we do on all other projects in the county? And then we'll work with the mining operator to make sure that we're able to get a bond on, we can put it on the county files.
Yeah, if you think that's good enough.
I'm just basing it off what we have on other bonds is 125% by a North
125%.
Dakota engineer. I'm certainly not a professional on what it's going to take to reclaim that, but that's how we follow with like data centers, man camps. We require 125% of reclamation costs to be put into a bond.
sure. So then I got a question, because I'm not really all that familiar about this bonding stuff, but so if it's a 590 some acre total project, but they only open up 40 acres at a time, so is the bond figured at the 40 that's actually being disturbed? And because the stuff that isn't being mined yet really is kind
My
of.
guess is that's as it's opened up is when the bond goes in. Yeah, come and answer that, you'd know.
Yeah, normally it's whatever acreage is opened up. So that they usually, like the counties will usually check it or ask you for a map yearly. That's whatever acreage is opened up is what you gotta supply the bond on. In our case, we're gonna be doing 40 acres at a time, so it'll always be for 40 acres.
Right, and that's what I was wondering about, is if we went off the whole 500, or even like the 1,000 plus acres, it's like, oh boy, that's.
Yeah, no, they don't, they do it, the acreage opened up. Otherwise, everybody would just come in and ask for a 40-acre mine, and next year ask for another 40 acres, you know what I mean? That's why they do it that way. I have Mercer County's $2,000 an acre. Bill said it's too low, I agree with him. I have no problem. You gotta get it up to the $5,000 an acre, around that point, because that's what it's gonna cost you,
Who seconded that motion? It was George, I'm sorry, okay. Okay, thank you.
2,000 ain't gonna, I can just tell you that, it ain't gonna cut it.
Not enough.
So even though this is a fairly simple one because it's a flat field. It's a fairly flat, but I'm just telling you where you need to be, to get yourself covered, so. And it wouldn't hurt to ask the other ones if they'd voluntarily do it. You're gonna learn a lot about it.
Agree. When we talked about the buffer and the, whether it's trees or the berm or whatever have you, is that part of the requirements inside within the staff comments and adhering to the zoning and building codes?
Not specifically for this project, no. So if this board feels that it's appropriate when they move down to that south parcel or south portion they were talking about, that they need to put in a berm, we can add that as a condition as well.
I think you should. I mean, obviously, it doesn't go into effect today, but when it gets there, they're gonna have to do that. So maybe, could we get an amendment to that motion to add that in there when the time comes? How the hell do you word that? What's a simple?
Well, they would
basically-
probably have to request a new bond if they're gonna move to a new area, so when that new bond is requested is probably the time when we could possibly enforce that.
Okay, but we need an amendment to the motion to add that they'll have to put a berm and trees of some sort, a buffer, satisfactory to the county's requirements. When that time comes, when they open up that bid. If they drop south to 52nd.
I'll make that amendment motion.
Okay, George?
I'll second it.
Okay. Go ahead.
So just to clarify, I just want to make sure staff gets this right, and that's what my concern is. So we're going to ask them, each 40 acres, they need to provide a bond. And if we follow our bonding requirements on our ordinance, it has to be done by a licensed engineer in the state of North Dakota who would come up with that amount. Typically, when we receive that from the applicants, we send it over to our engineer, and he approves the amount as well to say that, yes, I'm in agreement with the amount. Is that sufficient to follow with this as well?
I would think so. I mean, that's what you guys, that's what you do.
On a bond per acre doesn't normally go off 125%. It's normally just a per acre cost.
Well,
So I'm not sure where he's going. I'm confused on that.
My recommendation would be to rely on the engineer. That way, we're not coming up with an amount, and then that could go outdated within a certain amount of years. The engineer will typically take and will look at the full 40
Oh, I
acres
got you.
and what the
Yeah, no, that's
reclamation would
fine.
cost to reclaim 40 acres, and then it would be 125% of that amount.
That work?
okay, so
Okay.
we have an amendment to that in a second. Can I just do a all in favor, say aye on that, on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the motion itself. Is there any further discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Barry?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Tate?
Yes, motion carries. Let me find my, hold on here, Drew. Go ahead, please, go ahead.
I
Dan,
want
make a
to,
comment.
I want to thank these guys for the good presentation and all the time that you spent working with the people down there. I know that you can't win them all over, but I do appreciate how much you did try and the work you put into this, so thank you.
All right, next meeting is March 20th. Anything else? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?